Hi, folks. Thank you for joining us here on our live event. Hello, Middletown Middle Morons. Wow, that's a great way to start. Morons. Cool. So I appreciate you guys being here. We have just finished the premiere of episode 243. And uh, I'm Glenn Muse. And thank you for joining us. So I see that we have about 20 people with us right now. So I'm assuming that most of you came from the premiere. So what kind of insights do you guys have to share regarding the premiere? What did you think? What were some of the key takeaways that mattered in this story? Yes, Margaret, the mom, Deborah, she was informed. She was really informed and seemed to really have it sorted out in her head in a way that helps her go on with life. And so that seems like there's some really strong lessons for surviving parents and surviving family members of whatever kind. And a lot of the information that she shared. So I thought that was really a powerful, important element of the story. Crystal, welcome back. Good afternoon. I'm here just to listen. I'm working, so unfortunately I can't interact much with the chat. Well, fine. Working. So she sure loved her son and continues to work hard. All I know it broke her heart. Yeah. But she is wonderfully motivated and she's doing things. She's getting involved with organizations and getting out there in the public and doing a story here and a lot of things to try to combat this crisis for other people. And that's admirable. So do we have any is there anyone new in the audience? Anyone who hasn't joined a live before or hasn't contributed to a live, hasn't said anything? Yeah, I would like to share something. It'd be great to hear from you guys. So Margaret says it shows what trauma and world events can do to a child in terms of anxiety and mental health. I mean, it actually says mental health, but I figured that out. So yeah, that is. I remember when my stepson was, I don't know, 12 or 13 years old. There was this big scare of anthrax in the mail. That there were several places that received envelopes with anthrax in it, and he got very upset about that, very concerned, and same kind of thing. When I heard her story, it made me think of that that it's certainly a thing, and it's not something I'd ever even given any thought to talking about, and what a what a big deal. That kids have a grasp of the world that's just based on their world. And their world is in this little compartment. And so when they see something in the world, they conclude that it's in their world. No, I just have to check messages now and then because I don't know why I hear it. I think there was I think I missed a phone call this morning and I feel like I'm gonna hear from someone. So who's new? Who is new in the group here? Who has joined us for the first time or joined us and is ready to talk this time? Who has some insight? And also, what else stood out to you about this story? It does have some different elements to it that seem significant to me. There is a there's a habit now of you. We see this. I'm on Facebook and there are quite a few fentanyl awareness groups on Facebook, and now and then they will post something about a law enforcement agency that manages to make some sort of huge seizure of fentanyl or sorry fentanyl or other illicit drugs or fentanyl and guns and cash or some kind of package, and they'll the arresting agency will make some sort of big announcement as if to say, "Ta-da! Here's what we caught. Here's what we found. Here's the here's the fruits of our labor. We captured this big shipment or this big stockpile." Thing is, if those big shipments exist and those big stockpiles exist, they exist because that's what normally criminals get away with. They wouldn't make that kind of risk by having so much of their product in one place if it didn't typically work. And so when I see those posts, I can't help but think about how what they're really showing is they're showing, look, folks, here's what normally gets by us. And they're not really showing a victory, is how it seems to me. I don't know. You guys, please feel free to tell me where I'm wrong. I would love that. But yeah, why brag about that? This is what it's like coming on and saying, look, here's what's been going on right under our nose, and it's still going on, but we caught one. We caught one spot, and holy cow, it's worth a lot of money. But there's tons of others, and whatever spot you caught that one day doesn't do anything about the other 364 days in a year. So celebrating it as a victory just seems misplaced. Let's go with that. We'll call it misplaced because it's not a victory. It is proof of the problem, but it's no victory. I don't think, tell me why I'm wrong. Glenn Chat. What are you saying, Fly Girl? That's just me rambling on. I so appreciate you guys. I'm guessing most of you are somewhat familiar, engaged. Maybe you have had some trauma, some crisis relating to fentanyl, and and that brings you here. So, would love to hear some of your insight, some of your perspective about how to really fix the problem. There's a lot of talk about, well, let's get the cartels, let's get the dealers, let's get the smugglers, let's get China. And so, thank you, Fly Girl. So there's a lot of talk about who to get, but what's missing from all of that is addressing the demand. If there's no demand, it doesn't matter where it comes from or who brings it into the country. If no one buys it, it won't matter. And so the demand, you know, what creates the demand? Mental health issues can create the demand. Trauma, unresolved trauma, pain. So, how do you, if you fix those, if you address those kinds of things, unresolved trauma, mental health issues, make them normal, not something that has a stigma attached to it, then it's possible to make some progress in reducing the demand. And without reducing the demand, it's just a never-ending battle. And I think some people depend on it being a never-ending battle. What would happen to the DEA if the country somehow managed to win the war on drugs? Success would eliminate their need. It would eliminate their budget. I don't know. What am I missing? It just seems crazy. The whole war on drugs is certainly reasonable. It's reasonable to want to combat any kind of crime. But what drives the drug supply is demand. And until someone starts focusing on demand, nothing's going to change. One day, fentanyl will go away, like Quaaludes have. But it'll go away because it's been replaced by something. Margaret says, no, never had direct family experience. Just the series really grabbed me. Yes, you're so right. It's the demand, but that's a huge problem. It seems many families have tried the therapy doctor route. And Stacy, hello, Stacy, welcome. Or the DEA could then focus on education. Exactly. There you go. Because then they're focusing on prevention. They're focusing on demand. They're reducing demand by preventing. So another thing that I've noticed is education seems to start late, tardy. Addressing drug issues, mental health, trauma when a child is in high school is too late. It's still important to do, but the messages that happen in high school should be reinforcing messages that each child gets in grade school, the messages that each child gets at home. But some of the families did have some progress, but disheartening to see how many people did not get help in their teens or childhood. Yes, it is. It is. There's these issues that a lot of times the word stigma gets thrown around a lot, but it's certainly relevant. This stigma thing can impact people in all kinds of ways that is hidden. The stigma is there, and nobody acknowledges that. I don't want to talk about it because there's a stigma. That doesn't happen. That stigma is deeper than that. It is in the whole mental thought process of, I shouldn't talk about it because there's a stigma, and people will lump me in a category that I don't think I belong in. Yeah, grade school. The evolution when kid like I heard somewhere once that a child learns all of his core values by the time they're 5 years old. It's I don't think it's ever too early. Whatever the message is, it has to be filtered according to the child's age. It has to be shaped according to what they're capable of understanding without becoming terrified of everything. Uh, yeah. Holy cow. I got going there, didn't I? So I am just looking. See, I had actually made some notes about demand. We need to stop pretending we can police our way out of a demand driven crisis. We can't arrest addiction. We can't arrest trauma. We can't arrest hopelessness. But we can treat people. We can give them a reason to live instead of a way to escape. And we can stop a new generation from falling into the same cycle. Those are things that we can do. The challenge with that is that there's no cry for help. By the time someone gets to the cry for help stage, they're already pretty deeply into whatever circumstance they're in that drives them that direction. Non-intact families, societal and world violence somehow has to be risen above to help our people. There is that expression, it takes a village. And that's what we're doing here. We're being a little village here. And it takes more of this, I believe. But I'm just rambling. What do I know? I'm just a video guy. It's so sad. Even here in Africa, it's a war when it comes to drugs. Families are torn apart, especially South Africa and Zimbabwe. Well, nutrition chef, thank you for being here. What time is it there? So yeah, calling it a war. Maybe that's a thing to move on from, where we're not calling it a war on drugs. Maybe it needs to be thought of as a campaign to end trauma, a campaign to support mental health issues. So Crystal says, I think music and entertainment have a strong influence on these issues. Entertainers make it seem fun and cool what kids hear and see, especially at a young age. Internet access opens doors to so much. It does. It does. Those are key issues. There is some. I remember when I was in high school in the late 1970s. Occasionally there would be some sort of hit song that had a curse word in it. I remember there's a song by the Steve Miller Band called Jet Airliner, Big Old Jet Airliner. And it 1950s, okay, yeah, getting late over there. So, and that word, or that song had a line in it where they used the word shit. And that word being there, I believe, helped make the song more popular because the band kind of crossed the line by including a word like that. And over time, that became more and more of a trick to sell records, to sell music. I think the same thing happened with comedians. The kind of content that comedians regularly used 30, 40 years ago wasn't near as full of bad language, explicit topics as comedians are today. Comedians, there's a lot of really successful, funny comedians that get a little bit foul. 11 a.m. in San Francisco. Lenny Bruce was jailed. See, there you go. And you could look at Lenny. You could look back at Lenny Bruce and see that he was sort of a pioneer. But it's just no longer a very big deal. Movies too. And here's the thing though. This also goes back to demand. That when you think about comedians, musicians, movies, all of those things are driven by demand. Many of those things are tested on audiences for performance in advance, and so how the audience responds determines some of the content. In lots of cases, it determines all of the content, determines the whole trajectory of the story or the song or the jokes with a comedian. And so I think in all those cases, it's blaming the source when that's really kind of like cursing cursing the hammer for bending the nail. We're the ones, we being the consumers, we're the ones that hold the nail. Or I'm sorry, we're the ones that hold the hammer. If the movies didn't draw big audiences, if the comedians didn't draw big audiences, if songs didn't sell, that kind of content would stop or rebalance to where it wasn't so dependent upon, I don't know, dependent wasn't so dependent on things that are vulgar by most standards or obscene or foul. Wow, we got off on a tangent, didn't we? So I see we have 13 likes and we have double that many people in the group. Right, but when people are blind to what all these things are doing, there has to be some kind of conviction and moral compass. Right. The fact that those things exist and have become so extreme is really an indicator of what kind of filters are in the audience's head from when they were growing up. But when people are blind to what these things are doing, yeah, they are blind. That there's so many examples of how popular movies or music can be can influence the general public into thinking a certain way. If you think about any of you, if you think about everything you know about shark attacks, and then think about why you know those things. For most of us, it would be because of what we learned from a movie called Jaws. So we embraced that content, filed it away, and it became part of our regular information. Thank you, Nutrition Chef, for subscribing. I appreciate you being part of all this. Stacy says, again, demand, but the media, certain media, forces the negative content. People just are hypnotic and go along without thinking, getting brainwashed. Yeah, there is that. It's not just negative comment. We really see less news than we used to out of news organizations like CNN. There is now CNN markets themselves as being news and analysis. And to break that down, to think about the word analysis, that's nonsense. It's not news and analysis. Their idea of analysis is talking to someone who used to have a job. Someone who used to have a job that's somehow related to whatever the topic is. Former White House staff, former general, former whatever. Well, former is the key, and it's not analysis, it's speculation. Just speculation. Anytime a journalist leads off a question with the phrase, "What do you think?" That's not news. It's not even journalism. That is just a conversation. What do you think's going to happen when no facts are going to follow, just speculation. That's not news. Certain entertainers are greedy. If we don't buy their smut, they would change what they produce. Yeah, there is a reasonable motive to want whatever you create to be well received, popular, profitable, and so yeah, consumers have all the power. It's just not managed. That if consumers could more effectively demonstrate what has value to them and what does not, we could see a change in any of these things. Not just the media. Poor food leads to poor brain function. CNN equals trash. Yeah. Yeah, to both of those things. Completely separate things. But yeah, yeah. Garbage in, garbage out with both food and CNN. That there is nutrition is a vital thing. Understanding how what you consume is your fuel, and what you consume can either contribute to your life or not. If it is junk food, processed food, it's going to be. It isn't going to contribute to anything other than curbing your hunger, but it's going to have a lot of negative effects on how your body works at the same time. CNN is trash. Fox News is trash. There's a lot, and Fox News has a clear conservative bias. CNN has a clear liberal bias. Sometimes when I'm working, when I'm editing, I'll have on one of the other screens here, I'll have a window open showing CNN and another window open showing Fox, so that I can see them both together. I can't hear either one of them. The sound is off, but I can see as they work their way through the news day how they address the same issue from different perspectives. And if you spend, I don't know, you spend a few hours doing that, and you start to develop this far greater understanding of what the differences are. See, yeah, there's a conception that CNN is somehow better than Fox. CNN is better at hiding bias than Fox is. Fox doesn't try to hide bias. Fox has tons of bias, but they don't pretend they don't. CNN pretends they don't. And that's piling a lie on top of marginal content. When some crisis happens in the country, when there's something like a hurricane, CNN and Fox both turn into news organizations and handle the breaking news wonderfully. Both of them do. But they don't report the news the way they used to. CNN used to be gold. CNN, I remember 20 years ago, CNN, I didn't have cable during some of that time, and I would be jazzed to be staying in a hotel on some trip just because I'd be able to see CNN some. And back then, CNN was news, just news. News story after news story after news story. Constantly making you, the audience, more informed. But no, not now. No, let's have 3 or 4 talking heads sit around together and talk about all the reasons Trump is wrong. Or on Fox, let's have 3 or 4 talking heads sit around together and talk about all the reasons why Trump is not wrong. That is such a shameful betrayal of the audience's faith in you. And it does not merit protection by the First Amendment when it comes to freedom of the press. News in the U.S. is quite different than in other countries. Yes, it is. It is. I've been around. I've been to like, and we're going to talk about other countries because that's a thing too. We have someone here from South Africa. That's cool. I hope they're still here. Nutrition chef, I think, is the one. And here's the thing. Okay, I'm gonna talk to you about this. Let me see if I can make this happen. So we wore out the news thing. News Nation. I've started watching News Nation more, and I like it more. I feel like there's some bias. They tend to lean a little conservative, it seems like, but just a little. It's not like Fox. It's not the reverse of CNN. And they give both sides equal grief, both sides equal opportunity to defend themselves. It's refreshing. They're not all the way there, but they're close. I've been impressed with them. There's no greater power than the power to edit. Edit. Yeah, that choosing what stays and what goes, choosing which information gets exposure. So, in other parts of the world, a real common thing that you hear, and you'll hear it on CNN, and you'll hear it on Fox, and you'll hear it from politicians, and you'll hear it from supporters of either side, from the adamant supporters from those who say everything is Biden's fault and those who say everything is Trump's fault. You'll also hear from them that other countries hate us. They do not. They do not. I've been to other countries, a lot of other countries. And I have been hearing that other countries hate us comment for decades. And I have never seen it. I've never experienced it. Okay, here's where I've been. I did that wrong. Okay. Here's where I've been. In all of these travels, I have never experienced any difficulty from any. I've never experienced any difficulty from any region based on where I'm from. One time in Paris, I had trouble with a taxi driver. But on the other hand, I know I was not having a good day. So it could have been my fault. So there was that. And twice I've had difficulty with with customs and immigration when entering a country. Both times was with the United Kingdom. And that's all. That's it. People, other countries do not hate us. When you hear someone say that the other countries hate us, what they're really saying is, I've never been anywhere, but this is what I hear from people who tell me how to think. Or they have been places and they were treated badly because maybe they're a-holes. Maybe they were treated badly because they treated the people they interacted with badly. No, I haven't. I haven't been to Japan. I would love to go to Japan. Go to Japan. I would love to go to Japan. Never been to China. I've been to Singapore, and that's as Asian as my travels have taken me. It just worked out that way. I wasn't. None of those trips are me choosing where I'm going. Those are all trips on business for companies that hired us to go there to make some sort of video, a training video or safety video or some sort of promotional video. Stacy says years ago I came across a group of Brazilians who were not fond of the US. I'm sure there's people out there who aren't fond of Americans, but it's not this whole country thing. Japan will welcome you. I feel sure that's true. Every place I've been welcomed me. And a lot of the times, places that I went, I was a nuisance. I was a nuisance because I disrupted the normal workflow because I was there making a video about something and needed cooperation from the people that were wherever I was going. Osaka was great. The people loved the jazz group I was with. Jazz group? Okay, Stacy, that's new. I don't think I've heard about that before. Remember, folks, thumbs up. Click the little button. In 1993, I got to go to the former Soviet Union. I was in Moscow and I was in a town in Siberia called Tiamin. And during that trip, I was treated spectacularly well. I did social things. Me and the people I were traveling with, we went to a local nightclub in Moscow, and uh, we were we were treated just awesomely. We were a little bit of a novelty. This is right after the fall of the Soviet Union, and uh, it was they were friendly, and it was weird. That was my first trip out of the country, other than like Mexico and Canada, and I was going to a place that I had grown up thinking of as our enemy, the Soviet Union, and I'm going there and don't really know what to expect. I was jazzed to be going, but didn't know didn't know what to expect. I learned a little bit of the language. I learned how to count. Один, два, три, четыре, пять, six. I don't remember that much, but I learned how to ask for a beer. У вас есть пиво? And how to say я только немного говорю по-русски, which means I only speak a little bit of Russian. And so it was nothing. I don't know. I don't guess I really knew what to expect, but they were supposed to have been our enemy for decades, and we used that enemy status as a way to rationalize spending a lot of money on defense and as a way to manage fear, to give the public something to fear. And I didn't see it. I was treated awesomely. Everyone was friendly. Everyone. So, holy cow. Yeah, yeah, that's quite a deviation. Anyway, so who else caught the premiere? Is there any other? We've seen a few new names like S- S- Sorry, Sarya, Sarya Yuli. I'm sure I got that way wrong, but that's the best. I appreciate you being here, and it's always cool. It's always cool to see new names joining us and participating in the event because I am awesome, compassionate, and polite. Maybe it's just being polite. I think if you treat people with respect, they'll respect you. That's that's reasonable, don't you think? Yeah, the premiere was a powerful story. We in that series we have a lot of powerful stories. We do have other series also. We have a series on addiction recovery and we have a series on human trafficking. And both of those series are victory stories. So they're happy ending kind of stories. So that's cool. We also have a series called American Peace Officer, which is stories from law enforcement officers. Law enforcement officers tend to be chatty and like to tell stories. And I've done a lot of ride-alongs with law enforcement over the years, and holy cow, they get chatty. And many of them, maybe all of them, tend to have one or two stories that really stuck with them through the years. It could be something that was a tremendous tragedy or a inspiring kind of victory. but for whatever reason, it stays with them. And so the series American Peace Officer is a way to share those stories. It does something to humanize law enforcement. There's one, Stacy. We talked about it before. I think you were there. We talked about a story on the channel called in the law enforcement series called "The Man on the Bridge," and that I know the most about that story. The officer who tells the story is my friend. I remember when it happened. He told me about it, and that was like 7 years ago. And the story really stuck with me, and so I know more about it. But there are great stories. There's a simple, powerful story about a DWI officer who talks about the experience of giving a death notification to the parents of someone who's killed by a drunk driver. There's another story about awesome story from a state trooper in Missouri, I believe, who talks about making one more round, one more patrol round. He's also a DWI officer, and the experience that he had. He stopped an impaired driver, and as he was walking up to the car to begin the whole interaction after pulling the car over, in the oncoming lane of traffic, his his whole family drove by. His whole family was in the car. He had a young daughter and his wife, and they drove by. They were on the same road as the impaired driver he was about to arrest. And that's a great story too. How sad. I'm from Japan where drug is super restricted, still has substance abuse issues. The mental health issues are so universal. Universal, that is such an awesome word for all of this stuff. We're all really the same. We have differences based on culture, and we have differences based on our country, our nationality, but we are all human and we are all the same. President Kennedy said we all cherish our children's future and we are all mortal. And so that's a big thing. We all do. We all care about our families. We all want to grow some kind of way. We want to grow with more experiences. Sometimes those experiences could be travel. Sometimes it's achieving more at your career or growing a closer family or whatever. But all of those things are universal. Brianna, are mental health issues and substance abuse different treatment plans? Good question. Brenda says, Bree, mental health and substance use can be treated together or separately depending on the patient. Right, depending on the specific needs. There's some organizations that like to that have a specialty in some some specific substance addiction. And it doesn't really matter what the substance is. It could be opioids or cocaine or marijuana or alcohol. The villain of addiction isn't substance specific. And that's something that was told to me by a former White House drug czar when we interviewed him. And he knows. So we've been here just about an hour. How about that? Right now we've got 34 people here and we've only got 21 likes. No pressure, but you know, thumbs up. Yes, or food, shopping. There are all kind of things that are easy to become obsessed over, and that can easily turn into an addiction. You know, like not coffee though. Coffee rocks. Okay, Stacy. So here's a question: is it coffee or is it some sort of milkshake that you get at Starbucks that you like to pretend is coffee? As I have coffee. This is an Americana. That means 2 shots of espresso and some water. No cream, no sugar, none of that. So I'm just wondering. It's okay if you go for the special frappuccino latte organic black coffee. Good job. Good job. I get really I get a really dark roast. I don't know. I don't know. I've ever specifically had organic coffee where I can feel dependent on where I can have confidence in the result that the results are representative of what I would get at home. I'm just shocked at how easy it is for kids to sell and buy on the internet via apps like Snapchat. Yeah, now there's a critical thing right there that Snapchat and there's others as well. They have these icons that represent what kind of drugs are available, and it is an effortless thing. I know I'm involved in several fentanyl awareness organizations, and I know that, and these organizations are working to get presentations in schools. And sometimes, a lot of times, they run into some resistance from a school who doesn't really want to let them come in and give presentations because they say they don't have a problem. And sometimes the trick is the person who's trying to get into the school to give the presentation will be meeting with the principal or with counselors and assistant principal or whatever. And they'll be meeting with them and they'll hear some feedback like that, like, we don't really have a problem with that here. And the person will take out her phone or his phone and open up Snapchat and show them where drugs are immediately around the school. Just like that. It's that easy. No to those sweet coffee drinks, but I love my organic coffee with foamed soy milk. And yeah, okay, I've done. I think I would do the foamed soy milk a lot more often, except for the labor involved. First off, you got to have another cup, and then you got to have the milk, and then you got to hold it sideways and under that thing, and get it to the right spot, and you know that takes a while. So I would do that, and I would do the double shot of espresso, and then the foamed soy milk instead of water. But water is way easier. So I would do that. It's a lazy thing. It's just a lazy thing. Too much labor. Yeah, yeah. You know. I'm always eager to get back here to you guys. You know. So I think it's going to be about time to wrap it up for now, though. We've been here a little over an hour and 2 minutes, it says. So that's pretty cool. Our next premiere, I don't I don't know for sure what our next premiere is going to be. But we will have something. Today's set. We'll have something day after tomorrow. We try to space everything out every 2 days. Sometimes not. Sometimes there'll be something 2 days in a row. Sometimes it may be 3 or 4 days. I have several trips coming up where I'm going to be on the road a lot. And while I'm on the road, I will still be working on stories, but I may not be able to have something new up every 2 days. We'll see. Apps should be stopped as soon as we learn they are peddling poison, but nothing happens. Makes one thing the government acquiesces to said behavior. Makes one think. Yes, okay. Yeah, it's a weird balance because there's also the functional value of whatever the thing is. Snapchat is not a drug distribution platform. It is a communication platform, a social media platform, and some people on the platform use it to sell drugs. Thank you, Jillian. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for your over the top excellent work and your wife's too. So we can take a minute talking about my wife because she does so much. It is she makes everything possible. She is so on it. She does so much to make these storytelling summits happen, so much to stay aware, so much to keep the content on Facebook thriving and the storytellers and the storyteller group aware. I can't say enough about how much she does when we go do these storytelling summits. She's usually there, and when she's there, everything goes smoother because she's able to to stay in the waiting room and interact with the people that are there to share their story, but they're waiting until I finish with whoever I'm talking to. And this wonderful dynamic happens in that room where so many people are bonding, and she is vital to making that happen, to reinforcing it, to knowing things and guiding things. And sometimes she'll tell people things that I don't want to say. Some sort of girl to girl kind of kind of, yeah, maybe you should wear a jacket with that or whatever. And she's such gold. There's no way that this channel would be where it is without all that Sherry does. I can't say enough. Yes, absolutely. More love. The more you give, the more you get. That is a real thing. So I want to thank you all for joining us. I'm very grateful to have you all here. We've been live for a little over an hour, and Stacy says we are both so fortunate. You are absolutely right. I am living the dream right now doing this. I meet so many spectacular families, and yeah, they've been through this terrible thing, but they're so strong. And in the course of just doing this thing I do, I get to help them feel a little better. And I've met so many wonderful people. I'm 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 very fortunate. Brenda says Sherry for president. No, no, I don't think so. I no, I don't. Maybe not. That would make me the first husband, right? No, I don't think so. Anyway, thank you all. Thank you all for joining us. And remember, I always let you guys know that you are welcome to reach out to us at any time. Anytime. We're always glad to hear from you. And so here is the ways to reach out to us. You can email us at info@texas-pictures.com. You can find us on Facebook. We're also on TikTok. And here's our website. And on our website is our mailing address and a phone number and ways to email us and all kinds of cool information, and as well as some kind of outdated information because we have priorities on other stuff. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I look forward to talking with you again sometime very soon. Thank you.